In 1979, shortly after recognizing the People's Republic of China and establishing diplomatic ties with Beijing, Washington devised an official way to unofficially continue working with Taipei. The U.S. Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act, which declared it U.S. policy, quote, to preserve and promote extensive, close, and friendly commercial, cultural, and other relations between the people of the United States and the people on Taiwan. So how did Washington go about doing just that? Douglas Paul lived in Taipei as the U.S.'s top representative.
They created this corporate entity called the American Institute in Taiwan, located in Virginia, and this company would receive money from Congress to do the business that embassies normally do, but this would not be called an embassy. The leader would not be called ambassador. Lots of fine distinctions were made to separate official from unofficial.
For decades, these distinctions seemed to satisfy Beijing's one China policy. On occasions, the status quo was challenged. Just weeks before being sworn in as president, Donald Trump spoke by phone with Taiwan's leader, Tsai Ing-wen. Though Trump was still a civilian at the time, the move prompted a quick rebuke from Beijing, which saw it as a break in protocol. Months later, as president, Trump promised not to do it again, without first checking with China.
I think he's come to understand that that's not the relationship that we have with Taiwan.
Then, over the summer, the U.S. announced it was selling Taiwan nearly $1.5 billion worth of arms. Again, Beijing objected.
Taiwan is an inalienable part of China, and the United States selling weapons to Taiwan violates international law, the basic norms of international relations, and harms China's sovereignty and security interests.
When you have a president like Donald Trump, where there's an element of unpredictability, I think that China wants to make it even clearer to the United States that it will not tolerate this kind of slippery slope.
The Taiwan Relations Act requires the U.S. to, quote, make available to Taiwan such defense articles and defense services to maintain a sufficient self-defense capacity. Just how much is sufficient is up to the U.S.
It also has an obligation to maintain its own very robust presence in the Western Pacific to prevent any coercion or intimidation or threats from Beijing.
But she says there's a limit.
There is no language in the Taiwan Relations Act that says that the United States is committed to come to Taiwan's defense if it is attacked. This is not a mutual defense treaty.
But some say that vagueness may be a good thing.
Sometimes the strategic ambiguity is a message to Beijing. Don't raise the threat level militarily, because you may find that our ambiguity is actually something closer to NATO defense arrangements. And we say to the Taiwanese, don't test us by provoking China to try to have us come in and defend you for something you should not have done in the first place.
For decades, the U.S. has refused to officially receive officials from Taiwan. But just days ago, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill, the Taiwan Travel Act. It encourages exchanges, quote, at all levels. The U.S. Senate still needs to consider it, but even the suggestion that it may happen, that the status quo could change, has angered Beijing, which warned the U.S. against, quote, sending any wrong signals. Roe Ruttenberg, CGTN in Washington.